Welcome back to episode 4 of the Bad Deal podcast. This is episode 4, right? Yeah, we've done episode 3 last time, episode 4. So yeah, I'm not getting off my numbers. I feel like this eventually is going to get harder and harder.
You can use your fingers if you need to.
4.
There you go.
There we go. So anyway, we're back and we're excited to talk about some more Magic stuff. There's a lot to talk about. And as always, I usually have like something to say, like an announcement, but like honestly, things are going pretty good. We're really happy. You may notice we've removed our table, so we're a little like nervous because I don't know where to hide my hands. I can't, nervously shake my legs anymore.
I grab my foot.
Yeah,
I'm doing right now.
It's a little weird, but we're also planning on slowing down how many we record these now going forward because I think we're kind of where we want to be. So maybe back to like every other week. We'll see.
That's news to me.
We'll see what we do. Anyway, the point of the matter is that we have a great podcast ahead of us. And again, as always, if you're listening to this on Spotify, guess what? We have it on YouTube. And if you're listening to it on YouTube, we have it on Spotify. We're here on every platform, so you can listen to us on whichever one. And we're pumped for it.
2 platforms.
Yeah, we're really excited to get everybody on our platforms. Anyway, Thanks so much for watching, and you're gonna deal with more of us talking about something. So Ben, what do we got today?
Yeah, and before we get into it, you said that we're gonna talk about some Magic stuff today.
Yep.
And by that you mean the game. But
Magic the Gathering. Yeah.
For those listening at home that maybe don't know, Magic is in like magicians and wizards. Is that real?
Is it real? I think so.
Makes me laugh.
Do you watch David Blaine? Everything he does is real.
I'm pretty sure he flew once.
And also, he takes frogs out of his stomach.
Yep.
And that's real.
Because somehow he got a frog in there.
Well, he eats them and then he holds them in his stomach.
No, actually, I do think, do frogs have like some kind of
something?
Yes,
so he got sick a bunch, but he got an immunity of it because he put somebody in his stomach.
But don't frogs also have a special coating that makes it so they don't like the stomach acid wouldn't hurt them?
They won't die, so that's why he can
so like,
them
but
up.
he genuinely ate swallowed a frog and then spit it
and
back
he walked
out.
through it how he did it, and I'm like.
And you see that he held his we're off the rails here, but he held his breath for like 17 minutes once. I'm pretty sure
7 or more. I don't know. I don't remember.
I think it was 17.
Yeah, because he's insane.
Yeah,
kind of like today's show topic.
I go up a flight of stairs and I am out of breath. I'm good on 1 flight, but 2 flights.
2 flights, and it's like,
that's
I
risky.
go up 3 flights for my work, and I'm like, wow, why did I do this?
And you're like, why do we even need to be this up? That's how I feel. I'm
exactly.
1 flight, I get it.
Ground level basement,
That's
just like
all,
an LGS.
And it's like, if I'm going up another level, what's the point of that? Humans weren't meant to go that high, I don't think. So,
anyway,
we're talking about precons today. For those of you that don't know, precons are
our transitions are getting better every time. I feel like we're really nailing it.
It's really good.
All right,
it's
so
really
precons, we're hitting on precons.
Preconstructed commander decks, specifically commander decks.
Okay.
They've been doing this for a while now. I should probably look that up. I know 2017 there were precon decks.
Because like
before that,
I know we said we didn't want to mention Kalia, but isn't Kalia one of the first?
We can mention Kalia. That's fine. Probably, maybe.
Because I felt like she's like one of the originals. At least she's the earliest one that I heard.
The ones that I think about are like the Dragon. I know that was back in like 2017.
Yeah, that
was a deck. All the ones with the Eminence abilities, which we are not discussing today. None of them made it here because they're also pretty expensive. But
also they're back in March of the Machine.
They are.
Yeah, Eminence is back. So anyway,
which will be fun. 2013
is what I'm getting. First started.
It's when the first, and that's for Commander. They had Commander. Wow. So I was way off.
Wow, Commander's older than I.
10 years.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Commander's a good long-term format at this point. It makes sense now that we have like new formats coming up. So.
And speaking of new formats, that's something I wanted to mention is that I think at some point we'll be doing a couple of episodes where we maybe discuss Oathbreaker as a format. Yeah. I think that it would be good for us to talk about that a little bit.
I think like how I think about Oathbreaker is like we have, and just so you guys know, there's obviously standard Magic, which is like the 60 card format. You have multiple cards. Great. That's what a lot of people play. And then they have modern and they have like legacy, which are all different versions of that overarching format. I think Commander is starting to head in that same direction where Commander and Oathbreaker are like very similar. Yeah. But they have like a different twist on them.
Brawl is the same. It's a twist on it. Yeah. But just, I guess we'll do a little bit because I mentioned Oathbreaker. Yeah. We'll say use a Planeswalker card type as your commander, which is called an Oathbreaker. Then you also get a signature spell, which could be either an instant or sorcery in the command zone. And we'll maybe at this point we'll do an episode where we break down the rules differences and how those two compare and contrast.
And I wonder, like, I'm not saying Magic's going to be doing this anytime soon, but it would be kind of cool to see if they do precons eventually.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very popular format. It's not usually, at least from my perspective, like, there's not usually that format gets so popular so quickly. So
yeah,
something to think about in the future.
We'll see.
So if you want us to talk about Oathbreaker, we'll hit it. But for now, we have precons to talk about.
This is Commander,
which is a lot of what people get a hold of to start their game. Right. I personally started with a precon, but it wasn't mine, it was yours, and then I immediately built my own. But I think I would have appreciated to start off with a precon before I built my own deck, and we'll talk about why that is. But yeah, kick us off.
Yeah, and what I love about, we have 6 precons here that we've chosen to talk about. We each chose 3 that we have some experience with, and what I love about these is that there's a big range of costs. So when Wizards releases them, used to be $20-$25 to buy one sealed from, Target or whatever. Yeah. And now recently I've seen them, they're closer to $40. And then the prices fluctuate after they've been out on the secondary market for a while. But still, it's the sort of thing where they are pretty easily accessible. You buy them, you can play them right out of the box. And so with this range here of different prices that we have to talk about with these, there's really a lot of customization there. Mm-hmm. The first precon that we're going to talk about today is one that you chose.
Yep.
Now it's called Silver Quill Statement.
Yes.
Came out with the Strixhaven set, and that I think was 2021, so we're about 2 years since that one there. Mm-hmm. It's still sitting at the same price that it was on release. It's $39.99. All my prices came right from Card Kingdom. Not a sponsor.
Yeah.
Obviously. But
would love a sponsor from Card Kingdom.
Yeah, so DM me. But anyways, Silver Quill Statement here. The commander on the box is Brina, the Demagogue.
Is that a Demogorg or Demagogue?
There's no R in it, so
okay, then it's Demagogue.
Demagogue.
Yeah.
It's 1 white and a black for a 1/3 flyer, and its only ability is whenever a player attacks one of your opponents, if that opponent has more life than another of your opponents, that attacking player draws a card, and you put 2+1/+1 counters on a creature you control.
Yeah, the most confusing way to say something.
You do have to read it a couple times. I was halfway through, and I was like, has he been playing this card right?
Yeah, you always think you're playing it wrong, but once you actually structure it, show people in game what we mean by that.
Yeah.
The way I always explain it to people is I don't count because I'm the guy with Brina. Yep. And then whoever has the lowest life doesn't count.
Yeah.
So it's only the people who have either the same life or the higher than the lowest person.
Gotcha.
Which is way easier to explain it that way, but obviously in the card they have to do it that way just to make it very clear. But it's a cool card because again, you're attacking, you're encouraging everybody to attack for draw, which in Magic, we all know that draw
I'll do that.
Extra drawing
10
is
times
important.
Out of 10.
Yeah, drawing is and then guess what? It's encouraging to attack. It's on attack, so you don't even have to worry about if you're hitting people for damage.
Yeah.
If you have a 1/1, that's an easy draw card for you. Yeah. So it's a very, very good card in that sense.
I'll attack Jamie 10 times out of 10.
Yep.
Even without benefit. Now I'm just
giving
me
cards
to do it anyways, right?
Yep.
And so
keep in mind, it's whenever you attack a player, so it could be
you can trigger a couple.
It could be a little JJ over here, or it could be Colby or Todd or any of our friends that play Magic.
Yeah.
So
Todd has a cold also right now, so
he came over.
Thoughts and prayers.
He came over and played Magic with us while he had a cold.
He's sick.
If I get sick, I'm gonna be pissed.
So thoughts and prayers there.
No thoughts and prayers, because if you get me sick, Todd, I'm pissed.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
I'm not sick yet, so
he's not sick yet. So for now we're fine. But your little rope, your little cord, I should say, popped out of its little holders there. Yeah, it's out of both of them.
It's such a thick cord that they don't stay in.
Man, talk about thick cords. Am I right?
Yeah, you don't have that problem. You got these little guys.
No.
He's got the cheaper model of this setup though. So yeah.
Yeah, my cord is where it needs to be. Also, you purchased both these. Anyways, so it's a pretty interesting deck, though, right? Mm-hmm. It's political. You're incentivizing people to attack people that aren't you, at least with one creature, with the upside that, they're happy that they're drawing a card. You're also building your things. And I think that this is honestly a pretty simple strategy. We joked about how complicated it reads at first, and you're going to have to read it a couple of times, but the strategy itself is simple.
Yep.
Put 1/1 counters on your stuff, so that you can then attack your opponents to then draw more cards and put more 1/1 counters on your stuff. And hopefully people go with that. Yep. So you want 1/1 counter payoffs. That's pretty much it. You want 1/1 counter payoffs.
Yeah, I mean, coming from someone who's played it, I'll say that there's a little bit of nuance in the sense that sometimes sometimes you get like you end up with like these creatures that are like really big, and everyone's like, wait a minute, I don't like this. And I guess if it was precon versus precon, I can see Brina needing to swing out more and utilize those 1/1 counters as soon as possible, because you'll just lose otherwise. But I took this deck and made it not a precon and built it into my own as its own independent deck. So the strategy I found that I thought was kind of cool was that you could evolve this into a deck that's more about trying to position yourself to be in a 1v1 at the end of the game. Because Brina, I'm sure you could make her really dope at attacking people.
Wouldn't you always end up in a 1v1 unless you were to kill everyone at once?
No, I'm saying that you're kind of trying to put yourself in a position where you're not the threat until the end of the game.
Yeah.
When there is one less person left.
No, I'm with you.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So like protecting yourself, pillow forting, doing whatever you need to, or even just having these like creatures that are big, but you're not like swinging them out at people all the time. And you're playing the game of like, I'm helping you, and as long as I'm alive, you continue to get the benefit.
Yeah.
And then I added a lot of cards that continue to push that even beyond Brina, right? So like giving them benefits, forcing certain people to attack other people, right? Like just kind of trying to manipulate the game so that everyone stays away from me as long as I can, so that I build a board state that is able to win a 1v1 at the end of the game. Gotcha. Also, there's a lot of cards in it, like Ink Shield, which is a card that just stops all damage.
Yeah, good card.
It's all damage.
It came from Strixhaven too.
Yes.
I think was that in the precon?
Yes.
Okay, it was in the precon.
And that's a great card to have, and it's awesome that it's in that precon.
Yeah, I definitely think it's gone up a bit in value as well. Yeah. That card individually.
That's probably one of the cards that have actually raised the if the price has raised on this, that would be why.
Yeah.
Is that Ink Shield was one of the bigger cards.
Great. It's one word. Ink Shield. Yeah, $15.
15, wow.
For it, yeah. Which again, we'll read that, I guess, for the sake of it here. It's 3, a white, and a black for an instant. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to you this turn for each 1 damage prevented this way. Create a 2/1 white-black inkling creature token with flying.
Yeah.
So it really is, it's a win con in a lot of these decks here, where you're like, I'm about to get smacked for 30 and die. Instead, I'm going to create 60 flying power and live.
Exactly, and
flips the game.
I have one with that card.
Yeah.
Many a time with this deck, because the thought process is that maybe you have Brina, or maybe you don't have Brina. Maybe she got killed at some point, but you have a couple creatures out, not super intimidating, and then everyone's like, all right, I'm going to swing you to let the attacks go through.
Yep.
You now flip it on them, and then you win on the next turn. Hopefully, right? That'd be the ideal situation. So. Right. Brina's great. Yeah. She's a great precon. She won't always win, but if you can politic your way to victory, then great.
And it's like that card Ink Shield also works great here, because you think about what Brina does is you're giving people card draw, you're refilling their hands, they're building board state quicker because of that card draw. So having ways like that to capitalize, to kind of flip that on its head, flip that value on its head for your opponents, that's a great thing.
And there's a bunch of other cards that are also really great, not just Ink Shield, but I would definitely say that overall it's a solid deck, solid precon. It came out of nowhere. I think Strixhaven's a great set, very underrated in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah,
let's do this. Let's give it. I just decided we'll do this. Okay. Let's give them letter grades as we go.
So down for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you want to give for Silver Quill's statement?
Dude, I think it's an A tier deck. Because
and include cost in your head. $40 is still the price of this.
I think for $40, this is a fun. You will have the most fun, I think, if you like politics.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna pretend that everyone likes what I like. I think you're gonna have the most fun playing Magic, because it's so less stressful. You're just goofing around trying to make people not kill you. You can swing big, which is fun to do in Magic, and then also you can do these crazy plot twist endings where you spin it around on people. Yeah. What more can you ask for in like a game of pre-con Magic? I don't know. I think that's kind of fun. So
you're going A.
I'm going A because it's not, and I'm assuming we're going S tier, right? Like we have S as well.
Do we want S tier?
There's usually S tier, A tier, B, C, D.
So we'll go S. That's the 1, and then we'll go A, B, C, D, F.
Okay.
And you can do pluses and minuses.
Okay. I'm just gonna do solid A.
Really creative. So you're going A
solid
flat.
A. I think it's super great.
I was thinking B plus for it myself. So we're right in the same idea.
And I'd probably assume, is that power level?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking power level. Yeah. That type of strategy, the political strategy, it has a cap because you're helping your opponents, even though there is that upside for you. So for me, it's just under what I'd consider that A tier of like. You can play this thing out of the box.
Yeah, very reasonable
really
point. And I'd agree the power level is an issue for it.
Yeah.
Its greatest weakness is its lack of power.
I'm with you though. It's a fun deck, and again, it's $40 that you can play it right out of the box. So
All right, let's see what's next. What's the next deck?
So the next deck is one that's very near and dear to my heart. It's the deck that I learned to play Magic with. Oh. It's Reap the Tides from Commander Legends.
Card draw one? The extra land one?
Yeah. So it's the commander is AC. Never learned how to say that. Yeah, Asai, something like that. He's 4 green and a blue. Mm-hmm. He's a 5/5. You can play an additional land on each of your turns, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. Now this deck, I bought it for $22 when it came out. It's now up to $60. It's actually out of stock, which is kind of sad because I have since taken mine apart and I want to buy another one. Yeah. But I'm going to find it someday probably and then buy this deck again because it is sentimental for me. Yeah. But it's great. It's pretty simple for the most part. You want landfall triggers and you want bounce lands, stuff that lets you replay your lands, fetch lands, anything that's going to trigger that a bunch of times. And he has ramp and card draw on its face. So it's expensive. It's 6 mana, but like it just is an engine on its own. Mm-hmm. It's a very powerful deck. Great strategy. I won a lot of games when we were all learning to play with this deck.
I mean, I won games with that deck because you let me play it. I was the first deck I played Magic in. So I think I can agree with the sentiment of like nostalgia with that deck. It's like it was just good. It was just worked, but like I don't remember what its major downfall was. Maybe it was just it didn't have like a lot of big hitting or something. I don't know what it was.
It was kind of the reverse of that, where it was like it played a lot of large threats, and then they were lightning rods for removal. You're not, he's really good in the late game, but with a 6 mana commander with a lot of big creatures, your curve was a little bit late. And I never took it apart because I was like, this deck's not good anymore. I just took it apart because I'd played it over and over and over again. And I was like, I can use the money by selling some of the expensive cards from this deck, and I can build something entirely new. Yep. Which I did. But yeah, again, so this is 60 right now, but a really fun deck, really fun precon. Again, one of my personal favorites. So for me,
what's the tier, baby?
For me, I want to give it an A+.
It seems like there's a common thread here. I mean, I think it's tough for me because I'm thinking modern Magic, 6 in a precon fight.
I was gonna say though, think about it like I think this deck beats Brina.
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, I don't know how consistently, but yeah, the big creatures are always like a nice one. Like if you put it up against like there's a precon that I bought my wife, a Tarker, which is a dragon tribal deck, and it's like similar to that where it's like a very expensive, but once it gets out and gets going, it's like you just have maybe 2 or 3 turns before you win, and people need to just figure it out. Yeah, and I think there's something cool about that, and in precons, I just think that's fun. Yeah. But I also think, well, isn't that how most precons kind of typically run? Or if you go up against a precon, it's a little bit faster that can deal with it. I don't know. I would probably put it in A tier as well. Yeah. Just because it worked. It blue-green, right? It was like...
Yeah, it's arguably, as far as 2-color combos go, it's arguably the most powerful combo there.
I mean, it's going to work. It's going to probably win you some games. Yeah, definitely agree.
I like that it's easy to play in that because the commander does both by itself, it's like you just can almost not worry about extra ramp, extra card draw, because you just know you're going to have access to that. Mm-hmm. And so it's just pretty consistent that I'm like, play a land, draw a card, play a land, draw a card. And so now you're just sitting there, you're like, I have 14 mana, I have 6 cards in hand. Like, you just are in a really good spot.
Yeah. I think the only thing that I would have criticized on it is that it just isn't fast, like in the beginning game. And that's not enough of an issue for us to make it a B because, again, precons.
And I do think it had, like, I'm pretty sure it had, like, Avenger of Zendikar in it, which is a very powerful card.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so definitely plenty of ways to win the game in the deck. A lot of fun there.
Do you think Avenger of Zendikar holds up today?
I've been thinking about it. I do think so.
I was thinking about it.
Because to me, the strategies, it's expensive. It's like 7 mana. It's like 5 green. Yeah. So that's tough. But like in the strategies that want to play it, because it's a landfall trigger, you shouldn't have any problem hitting that turn 4, turn 5. Yeah. Maybe not turn 4. But you could cast the thing on turn 5 pretty, I think, on curve for those kind of decks. And then any way that you either want to utilize tokens or utilize attacking triggers, it's really good for both of those. Like we talked about, we took a fat dump on Captive Audience, which is a 7 mana cost card. I think this card is like leaps and bounds better than that one. Yeah. So
because I just think about it in the light of the classic Scoot Swarm. I'm just like, if you had the choice between the two, I almost always go with Scoot Swarm. Yeah. But I get it does have quite a major impact if you can get it to work.
Yeah.
Because it's also a bigger creature on its own, so
Right.
it's like there's a little bit more to that, whereas Scoot Swarm's just tiny. So.
I remember there was a fun instance where Todd played Scoot Swarm and had 1 million of them, but I was playing Gisela, which halves damage rounded down. Yeah. So all of his 1/1s literally did 0 damage to me. So.
I think was I in that game? Because I feel like I think you were. That. And then, they told me about it, or we played it. It was awesome.
I think he removed Gisela and won in the end, but he had like 1 million Scoot Swarms and couldn't touch me with them.
That's hilarious.
That's kind of fun.
Which would not be the case with the plant tokens,
because you could get them 1/1 counters. Yeah. They'd be swinging in. Not that very specific corner case is like at all a reason that I would make an argument for or against either card, but just
they both live in the same, and often they end up in the same decks
because it's the landfall.
They work well together.
Which again, another benefit to Reap the Tides. Landfall is it's been very fleshed out in terms of a strategy.
Simple, it's
plenty of options.
You can do it. You know you're hopefully going to draw a land at least, or at least have a land every turn. Right. Hopefully you have good luck. Yeah, I totally understand why that's a good deck to start off with. You can't get it now, but
you can find it. You can probably buy it on eBay.
Yeah,
it's going to cost you
TCG
$70
player probably. Yeah. Maybe you might have it.
$60-$70 for it sealed, but
yeah. All right, what's the next one?
Next one is the most expensive one that we're going to talk about today.
I think I know
it is one that you chose. It is from the recent Warhammer 40K decks that came out.
Yes.
Necron Dynasty, which is currently sitting at Card Kingdom for $109.99. That's for the standard version. Obviously, they made that special collector ones. That one's like almost $300 now.
Yeah.
So,
it's a bit up there. It's a bit up there, and I will say this: when I bought it, I paid $80. It still wasn't that cheap.
No, and those the Surge foils are like amazing.
Yes, I bought one. You'll see it when we play next. I bought a Chromatic Lantern with Surge foil. And it is gorgeous. It's one of the coolest foils I've ever seen.
I love all the 40K art is so unique.
Yes.
And I really do. When I recently built a deck, I chose like the Soul Ring Arcane Signet with the 40K.
It's just like, why get them now while they still are available? Because they will eventually disappear.
Right.
And when they do, it's going to suck because they're great. They look great. They play great. And that's why I just was like, I have to have one of these Warhammer decks.
Yeah, you might as well just grab a Warhammer deck now if you're going to do it.
You're not going to go wrong. And Todd bought a Warhammer deck recently, played it. It was awesome. It was super cool. Same kind of flavor where it's just like, it just works. It's a little confusing to get started. Mine's a little more straightforward. So Necron Dynasties is a mono deck, mono black. And it's all about milling, which means that you take like the top card of your library and put it in directly into your graveyard. But with the commander, you can pull a creature or artifact or something like that.
I do have his text in front of me.
You can
that
read
I can go ahead and go through that.
Yeah.
So the commander is it Caesaric?
It's something weird, like man. They all have like very strange names.
It's all from that universe.
I'm not going to be the expert on that answer.
So it's 1 black for a 3/4 flyer. He has an ability, My Will Be Done. Whenever he attacks, mill 3 cards. You may put an artifact, creature card, or vehicle card from among the cards milled this way into your hand. Yeah,
the vehicle is what I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
It's cool, man. And it's so the Necron one is considered the best one out of all of them.
Yeah, that's the highest in price as well.
And the reason for it is it's a just amazing artifact-based deck. So it's mostly artifacts. In fact, everything is almost an artifact. And if it isn't an artifact, there is a way to make everything artifacts. So it's just like, it is so hardcore and it's so simple in what it's trying to do. And the cards that they made for this deck, I'm like, some of it, I look at it, I'm like, how is this? Like, why did they go so hard on this? And I'm glad they did because it makes it very fun to play. And I imagine a lot of these cards were very exciting for people to take and put into other decks.
Yeah.
But for me, I haven't done any upgrading on this deck. So it is still how it.
It's almost more fun because its power level is fine as is. Yeah. It's almost more fun to keep it as this cohesive unit. Yeah.
I feel comfortable playing this deck in our play group. Now, maybe that doesn't work for some people who have $1,000 decks, but like, I don't know, tell your friends to play something a little cheaper and like have some fun.
Yeah, tell them to chill out a little bit.
Yeah, like, it's like, what the heck are you doing?
Go out for a drink sometime.
Get over yourself is kind of my classic statement of like, just why? Just have some diversity in Magic for once. But anyway, this Precon is a Precon I feel that most players should feel comfortable go play with their friend groups because it will work. It may not win every time because your friends might have crazy decks.
And nothing should win every time.
Yeah, but like, it's going. I can't imagine you're not going to win a game.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just a good deck.
Artifacts are very supported, like we were talking about with Landfall.
Yep.
It's very easy to have access to cards that care about artifacts. I'm not even gonna say anything remotely close to that this time.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So artifacts.
It's okay. Just power through it. We're fine. We're not gonna. You guys don't get to know what we're talking about.
So artifacts as a strategy are very powerful.
Yes.
And like black has really good support in terms of like it's very good at card draw. It's very good at recursion, which really goes on theme with this commander here as well.
Very good in it as well.
Right. And the commander has mill on it.
Yep.
You have ways to recur on the commander. You have ways to recur just using that color identity. Mm-hmm. So I definitely see there's a nice power level there. Mm-hmm. I've never actually. I feel like I haven't seen you play this deck, so maybe you need to play it tonight.
I played it yesterday or a couple of days ago when we played a game, and it was just so fun to play. I played it a lot when I first got it, and I think I took a little bit of a break on it, but it just its greatest weakness is that like certain decks just shut it down, which sucks. Right. You know, like counter decks are kind of rough to get through because like it does have a big splashy deck card. Mm-hmm. Sorry, big splashy spells. Is what I was trying to say, not big splashy decks.
Hey.
It just has like these spells that like there's this one spell in it, or creature or whatever that like when you play it depending on how it's like this insect creature and it's and I'm not gonna try to say its name because it's like really weird and
they're
all
like
the crypto tech
it's something. The Warhammer.
Yeah, so it basically exiles your whole graveyard. But if you have a land, depending on how many lands and artifacts you have in it, it'll create a 1/1 insect flyer.
Yeah.
And I did that yesterday, and I got about 21. Because again, you're milling and you're doing, but I got like 21 flyers. Now, granted, I was at 2 health at this point.
Gotcha.
And I was like, I'm gonna take someone out before I go out. And Todd was the one that got me there, and I fumbled the bag in the moment because I got so excited because I had this card that depending on how many artifact creatures you have or artifacts on the board, it'll +1 a creature. Gotcha. So I was basically going to make a 20/20 on top of all my 20s, just going to annihilate him. But I also was going to die because of it, and I was like, here we go, we're going to do this. I was stupid. You could instant speed this this
so did you
artifact.
do it while he still had time to block it?
I did it while he still had time to block it. I got excited because I was trying to make sure I'd spent the mana right, and I just got thrown off, and then I screwed up, and it was too late because it was out, and he could see it. So
rookie.
Yeah, so I fumbled, and you know what? I don't care because it still ended the way it should be. Todd lost, and that was all that mattered. So.
And the whole other aspect that we didn't even talk about besides just how the deck plays and how it looks and stuff is like we don't really play. I have some experience with Warhammer, not 40K.
Yeah,
I know that you haven't really touched it, but like, there's also a whole community of people I'm sure that do have overlap between Warhammer 40K and Magic. Yep. So that would also be really cool. And Necrons, I know, are like they're the big bad guys.
The big bad,
They're the opposite of the Ultramarines, are like the big good guys in Warhammer.
Space Marines.
So definitely pretty cool there.
I'm really thankful that Magic was able to bridge that gap a little bit because that's something that I noticed because I spent a little bit of time in Europe, and one of the things I noticed is that Warhammer is like very popular there. It's very hard to find non-Warhammer things. So like I think I assume there's certain people that are like certain areas that are very Warhammer heavy, and then there's certain areas that are very Magic heavy. Even in our own hometown, there's like stores that we know of that we stopped going to because it was like hardcore Warhammer stores.
Say the name of the store.
I won't do it. I love them. They were really good to us, but it was a little bit too Warhammer, and it didn't felt like there was a lot of support for us. So we were like, we'll move on. But that's kind of it's cool when there's I guess I'm glad to see 2 fan bases be able to come together because I could see some Warhammer fans being like, all right, I'll try Magic now because it's a commander deck. I don't know. I think that's cool.
And it almost could go the other way too, where like us as Magic players, you could get into this and be like, I could almost see myself someday like getting into the Warhammer stuff too.
And I think the Warhammer world is super cool. I just am not ready to spend the money.
No, it's a lot of time and effort, but I guess so is Magic, but we just have a little bit of
which one
already.
Can you do both is the question. But as far as grading,
I was gonna say
I
include that and keep in mind $110 price tag at the moment here.
Okay, here's my argument. It's an S tier for me, and here's why.
Oof.
Okay, and then this might be controversial, but the S tier is because you can play this outside of Precon games, I believe.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you can play it with like people who have very expensive decks, but I can see if I built a $200 deck, I see Necron Dynasties playing very well in that group. And I think a lot of casual players could find themselves enjoying this deck in their normal games. And I think because of that extra money you spend on it, which is basically like the price of two nice precons.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it. You know, you get a lot of cool flavor, you get a lot of cool style, and you get a really cool story that you get to play out with the Necron deck. And that, for me, that puts it in S tier. And I'd say that for most of the other decks too.
Yeah.
In the Warhammer zone.
I think for me, it's a little bit dependent on what you're looking for, because like you said, this one's $110. The previous two that we talked about, 40 and 60. So you could have both of the first two that we talked about or this one. Yep. Now, for some people, that's not the point. Yep. It's Warhammer. It's Warhammer art.
Yep.
It's a Warhammer characters. It's like very unique to them. And obviously, like I said, we already talked about the art's great. It's really fun.
Yep.
So for me, I'm going to give it A+. It's not S tier for me because of that idea that you could have two other ones, but it's so unique to me. And this is probably my favorite. I know that Magic's done that Universes Beyond where they've crossed over with other stuff. This one's probably been my favorite.
Yeah.
I think since they've started doing that.
Until Lord of the Rings comes out.
I know that you're very into Lord of the Rings. I don't really do Lord of the Rings, but we'll see. We'll see.
I can tell you right now, man. Yeah, Lord of the Rings will top it. But yeah, I get where you're coming from. As of now, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, this is probably the best one.
It's the best.
And again, like I love those. What were they? The shock foil things.
The surge foil.
Surge foils. Yeah. Those are really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna go A+.
That's fine, totally reasonable. And again, let's just remember, like this deck would absolutely clap people in precon games because it's a very good precon. Again, you're paying for the price of it, so maybe it's a weird gray area. It feels like it's in between being just good enough to play with normal decks and then really, really good against precon. Right. So it's like, I don't know.
Which is like what's hard for me to grade it like that is because it's kind of not the price of a precon.
Yeah.
Like we build decks for 110 or less.
Yeah.
And so you have to almost grade it on that idea.
Yeah, which is why I lean that way because I'm like, well, that's kind of a cool that you can do that. So
yeah. Well, let's push on. We have 3 more to go through here.
3 more. Let's go.
Let's do our ad break now.
I know.
I'm just kidding. No one wants to sponsor us. So
we will eventually. Fun fact. Spotify eventually will allow us to do that. I might actually have to start doing. I have to eventually do ad reads, but we're not there yet. But if you watch us on Spotify and you follow us and you be good fans and listen to our podcast, please.
Then you can also listen to ads.
You can listen to ads, which help us make money, which then helps us spend more money on this set. We have a couple new friends.
I can't even afford a real water bottle.
What's sad is that I think the camera can only pick up like the top of this little thing. But I really like our little setup. But we got this little guy. I'm really proud of this guy. It's No Face from Spirited Away. We got a little Myrrh from the Phyrexia set that came out recently, a little toy guy. And then
this is my wallet.
That's his wallet. We have a French book from Belgium. It's really cool. It's Alice in Wonderland. So yeah, we have a cool setup, but you guys don't get to see it. So that's cool.
Someday.
Eventually we'll have it better. But anyway.
Maybe carry on. We either need a taller table or
I know I'm throwing us off of topic, but I just really wanted to
I think these next 3 we won't talk about as long.
Okay.
And so
I'll make sure to be really try to carry these out.
Get real breathy with it.
Yeah.
So what we have here, number 4, is one that Colby, we can't get it through an episode without mentioning this guy.
Yeah, I love that guy.
But this is one of his precons that was like the OG, and this was back when it was kind of 3 players for the most part, me, him, and our friend Todd. Yeah. And like this deck ran the table quite regularly. Okay. It was almost always a problem. It was Elven Empire from Call Time. The commander was Lathril, Blade of Elves.
Oh.
She was 2 black-green for 2/3 with Menace.
Yep.
She's an elf. Whenever she deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens. She also had a tap ability, where if you also tap 10 untapped elves you control, each opponent loses 10 life and you gain 10 life. That ability is less important to me about the fact that she makes 1,000 of them. Oh, and I'll circle back real quick. This deck was probably about $25 when you were to buy it. It's now sitting at $60. It's followed the exact same pattern as the Reap of the Tides one that we talked about from Commander Legends. Which is funny because I think of these two as like the exact same, where they're like really good precons. They have really good strategies, really sound. But this deck's really fun. You just do the thing where you play 1,000 elves, and they're all like 2 mana.
Yeah.
And she's making a bunch more elves, and so you play stuff that cares about the amount of elves that you have. He has this one card that taps for mana equal to the amount of elves you control. The thing always taps for like 12. Lathril gets huge somehow, and then makes 14 elves when she hits. It's just like this never-ending cycle of like there's
it's
so
like
many
a
elves
for elves, which is
Yeah.
I think I've seen him play it. I think I might have played a little bit with it. Did he deconstruct it, or did he?
So I think he still has it, and he has upgraded it.
Yeah,
so it's
I don't know why
as
he hasn't
it
played it.
was. I think it's the same thing where it's like that was like his deck for a while, and so every time we played was just like elves.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a great deck, and
really
Lathril is still a very viable commander to play outside of Precons. She's just good. Like, it's just a good, maybe not like great, but a very good commander.
And again, like black-green for creature strategies is like great support for those things.
Black's weakness is that obviously it doesn't have a lot of card draw, it doesn't have a lot of like ramp, but then green comes in, fixes that, and then you get recursion, and like it just works really nicely.
Yeah, it's a really nice color combo.
Yeah,
it's like really powerful deck again. You can go take it a couple different ways. I also think for a beginner, it's pretty simple in terms of, like I said, you want to play a bunch of elves. The sub theme is that you probably want to find a way to add +1 counters or something to Lathril because she gives you elves equal to the amount of damage she deals. But yeah,
it's just productive.
It's a really good deck.
It's like a very productive deck, right? Like you're hitting people with your commander, and that's boosting the rest of your deck. I don't know. That's just great.
So for me, I'm gonna give this the exact same thing I gave to AC or Reap the Tides.
Yeah,
I think it's an A+. I think, like I said, same price. It's followed the same pricing pattern where it's come up steadily. I think those two are like right on par with each other.
Okay, that's interesting. You're not touching the S tier with it. I'm not. I agree with you.
I'm close on it.
Yeah.
The problem is I don't have an intimate knowledge of the exact out of the box how it played. I know he's made some upgrades to it, but I know it's a very good deck, very powerful precon, and I love that. Like $60 to me.
How much mana is it to call her to bring her out? Right?
She's 4 mana.
Yeah.
So she's a lower curve than AC is.
I'll agree with you on the A. It just makes sense. Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it's a bad one.
Really good deck. It's hard for me. I couldn't make the case to move it any lower, I don't think.
No.
All right.
We could make people angry and move it to like F tier.
Like, I'm going to say
F tier.
Yeah, I'm going to say a solid D- on that one. So next one's another one that I don't really have any experience with. Well, actually, the commander for this next one is in one of my other decks. I didn't know if this deck existed until you sent it to me.
Really? Okay, cool.
So it's Grave Danger.
Yep.
It's just a starter commander deck. I forgot to look up what year it came out or when it came out.
It was very recently. I think it was this year.
I think it was December, actually. I looked it up.
Yeah. It was
end of last year. That's right. Yep. I did look this up.
Very, very
I just didn't write it down.
Yeah. And you can tell it's new because it has the foil that it is like really cool looking.
Yep, that's right. It's held its price, I think, at what it came out as. It's $23. It's the cheapest one on the list, which is great.
Yep.
Because like that's about as low barrier to entry as you can get for commander for 100 commander cards.
Yep.
$23 is great. The commanders Gisa and Geralf.
I always thought it was Geralf.
Geralf.
Because it made sense. It was Giza and Geralf.
Giza and Geralf, or Giza and Geralf.
It's kind of like GIF or GIF, right? Like I don't know.
Take your pick, or listen to someone who knows more than us pronounce them.
We don't really research the names. We just like talking about the names.
Just say the things.
Yeah.
So it's 2 blue-black for a 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, you mill 4 cards. During each of your turns, you may cast a zombie creature card from your graveyard.
Dude, this deck doesn't play like it's a $20 deck. It plays like it has a mission to never die. Like it's very interesting, that zombie flavor, because it doesn't want to die. I've played this deck and it just like you think that like you have this deck on the last leg, and then it just pulls some bull crap out and you're just back in it and you have like 50 zombies or something, and it just, from my experience, like, yes, it is very low power level and you feel it after a bit. Like it definitely is like, okay,
because it's kind of slow almost in the terms where it's like it gives you card advantage, which I love card advantage, but it's 1 cast per turn, so it doesn't matter if you're sitting there with 9 mana and you have 4 zombies in your graveyard you could all cast. Like you kind of are restricted on that speed.
The thought process behind it, I think, because what you end up doing is like, okay, the benefit is if you're running out of things in your hand, you're always having access to at least something in your graveyard, which you can keep getting some more benefits out of that.
Yeah.
But then the idea is that you're using that mana also to start bringing things out in your hand, which there are a lot of cards that like work really well at like +1 money in your zombies or creating zombie armies, which then can get really, really big. And they're not, I'm not saying like a large amount of tokens. I'm saying 1 card called a zombie army, which gets more and more +1 counters on it for amassing, which a bunch of these cards are doing that. The weakness is it's very zombie focused, and it is a bit slow in that, which is surprising. You would have thought that you would have like started going through it, but I think it's not that it's slow as much as it's missing some cards that would just, if you added this card, like we all know there's some zombie cards out there, like if you just threw it in there, immediately 10 times better than what it is now.
Like if you were to put a Scarab God into this deck, really good card.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's not like the World War Z zombies where they're zipping around.
No.
They're slow zombies.
Yeah, they're slow.
Good to know.
Well, like it's tough, right? Because like some games I've had it where I'm like, yeah, I'm rolling with like just I can keep getting zombies going, and that's when I talk about being hard to kill this deck. It just keeps generating zombies, and you can't really stop it because you kill the thing that's making the zombies. I bring it back, and I keep making more zombies, and so in that regard, it's very, very good at not dying because if it's combat damage, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to pretty much anything else, you got a flyer. This deck is dead.
Yeah.
You will lose the game. It will not win against flyers. Trust me, I have played against a flyer deck and I lost in about 5 turns.
It's like almost a worse version of like a Muldrotha deck.
Yes.
You know, where you get, it's like you're going to interact, you're going to use your graveyard for value, but like it doesn't do it all in its face by itself. The way that like Muldrotha is like, you're going to do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, still a nice deck. That low price point's great.
Yeah, I'm tempted to defend it and be like, well, if you just upgrade it and put this card in and put this card, and I have a plan to do that. But that's just not what it is.
That's not our conversation
on its
today.
Face, it's a good Dimir deck. It teaches you Dimir in a really great way, which Dimir means black and blue. And I'm a big Dimir fan. I think it's one of the best combos.
It's a fun
for me
combination.
Anyway. It's kind of what I like, and it just is fun. Again, I like the concept of it. I'm a big fan of zombies. I've been wanting to play zombies. So that's why I bought it. And it's $20.
$20
you don't
is
lose
great.
much. You don't lose much on it, and it's a great way to get started. When they say starter commander, very, very good.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna put this one as a B, because for the sole purpose. Well, actually, here's what I'm gonna do: a little bit of retroactive fixing here.
Okay.
I'm gonna take your Silver Quill one. I had a B plus. I'm gonna move it down to a B.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna put this one at a B plus.
Oh.
So I think there's similar power levels. This one's cheaper.
Interesting.
And so we're grading it off of, if you're a new player, you want to get into Commander, and you're like, I can just go purchase a deck that I can play with my friends. It's hard for me not to be like, this is one of my recommendations, because I wouldn't want someone to go out there and buy the Necron Dynasty deck and invest $110 into it to then be like, this isn't for me. Yep. So if from that angle there, this is maybe the best option on the list.
Okay. I will give it a C.
Oh.
Being someone who's intimately played it, you cannot have a deck that is so wide open to certain attacks. In this case, being flying or pretty much anything that doesn't have to hit you from the ground. I think a deck that doesn't have any answers to this, and I think I've looked through all the cards and I haven't found a single answer to a deck that has flying in it. That's a problem for me. Like, I think if you're starting with a precon, the price is great, and this is a great deck to play, and you'll have fun. But as soon as you play against, let's say, I mentioned it earlier, Tarkir, a flying dragon deck. Yeah, it might take you, and I have played against a Tarkir with this deck, and I can tell you, it is not fun to be like, no matter how well, I could have literally the best game of my life with this deck, which I was, and then all of a sudden my wife brings out her dragon, I'm dead in 2 turns.
And just with a precon, you're just probably not going to outvalue someone. Yeah. And so if you can't outvalue them, you can't out damage them easily, then like it puts you in a tough spot.
Yeah. So for that reason, it's a C. But I agree, like the price is so good that like if you pick this up, you're not going to be like, wow, I really regret buying this deck. Yeah. It's a good deck. It plays fine. It just don't play against flyers.
And then there's also the path there where minimal upgrades going forward can kind of fix you.
Literally add a couple flyers maybe.
And you probably have to hold up removal. You just would have to be smart with your removal, knowing that I have this weakness. So
I it's definitely the worst of my precons I've ever played.
So maybe I'll bump it down to a B. Maybe we go to a B.
It's a C for me.
Yeah. B minus. All right. And that brings us to our final one here.
Okay.
I've never played this. I don't know much about it, but I put it on here because we talked about the Necron Dynasty, which is a very expensive artifact option.
Yeah.
This is a recent precon. It does artifact stuff, creatures.
Okay.
It's kind of similar in strategy. It's just a lot cheaper.
Okay.
So it's from the Brothers' War. It's Urza's Iron Alliance. It's $40, which I think is what it was when it came out. It hasn't changed in price. The commander is Urza, Chief Artificer. It's 3 white, blue, black.
Interesting.
For a 4/5 creature. So it did the thing on my computer where it thinks I'm saying 4/5, so it made it like super tiny. And I'm
so
not.
It's a 4/5.
So it's a 4/5 creature. Has affinity for artifact creatures, so it costs 1 less to cast for each artifact creature you control, which really helps because we just said it's a 6 cost. Chances are in this deck you're not really going to cast it for that. Artifact creatures you control have menace. At the beginning of your end step, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token with this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control.
Yeah, so very much in the lines of Necron, but
yeah,
instead of it being, or at least for the commander is less about milling and more about, hey, I'll make the commander cheaper, and then it'll kind of help out in
and he's going to pump out these tokens, and all the tokens will see each other and get the extra +1/+1 every time they come out. And so you just kind of spiral. He gives them all menace. It's a very like, I'm going to play 1,000 artifacts and I'm going to spin my wheels. I used to play a Joyride deck that I had created that did something similar. I imagine this follows a very similar pattern. I like that it has the color flexibility of white, blue, black. Again,
very good combo.
Good support there. I just think it's probably a pretty fun deck to play. Again, $40 makes it that alternative there. If you don't care about Warhammer as a topic, I think this deck is probably preferable to the Necron one, just on price.
And it's $40, so
yeah, so you could buy it and then be like, I think with a $70 budget, I can make this better than the Necron one.
That's fair. It's a good point. I don't know. I don't know if I'm letting my bias for not really enjoying the Brothers War set get in my way, because I'm trying. I don't know. Again, I haven't played this deck and I haven't even looked at its deck list, but I know the cards because I bought a couple set boosters and stuff. And
I think Urza's a cool character, which I think definitely helps it for me.
Urza's cool. I think affinity for artifacts makes it interesting. Like, that means it's simple, right? That means you just need to get some artifacts out, and it makes
what
everything
you're
better.
What you're gonna do anyway to ramp. Now it's like, well, I play my Soul Ring, I play my Arcane Signet, whatever, and now in addition to tapping for mana, it's reducing the cost of your commander, so it almost doubles up. For in terms of your commander on curve, it almost doubles up that ability. Yeah,
I would definitely agree with you in the sense that, like, okay, well, if I'm not going to pay $100-something for Necron, definitely go for something like this, like an Urza deck where you can cheapen everything or boost everything with just getting more on the board. Because that's, again, a really simple strategy that anyone can do, and it's a good way to start the game.
Play a bunch of artifacts, win with combat using these artifact creatures because they're all going to get menace.
And I think Urza. Like, this is where I get into the area of, like, with I know you definitely look at Brina as a lower powered deck, but I think, like, with Brina and Urza, for me, being $40 decks, you can really easily upgrade them to become a main deck in an actual game with your friends, right? Like, you can move it past being a precon really easily.
Yeah.
Whereas Grave Danger, which is a Giza and Geralt, or whatever you want to call it, that deck is so cheap that it'd take a while for it to get to where you want it to be, power level wise.
Right.
I just see these as really, like, I almost think that when I recommend someone to get into Magic, start with the $40 decks, because in this case they run well, but then you can upgrade them to $100 decks and they can be really, really effective.
Yeah, and a lot of them, obviously, they were pre-built with Synergy, so that the theme's already clear. Yeah, and you're gonna play it a bunch of times. It's like play testing it. You're gonna know, okay, this card doesn't do anything for me, and so they all have, when you're playing them, probably a pretty clear path to upgrade. That's almost a downside, I think, with the Necron Dynasty, because if you love Warhammer, how do you take a Warhammer card with Warhammer art out for a Magic the Gathering card?
The answer is you don't, because no one does it. Because I don't know a single person that I've said, like, I'm going to tear apart this thing. No, what they do is they buy it and they buy another one. So they can have one that's like that, and then they have the other one to mess around with.
That you keep with the original plastic on. And that's
like,
what I would do.
I love it too much. Yeah, and that's a really good point, because that is a genuine thing that just is gonna mess with certain people.
As good as it is right now, that's as good as it's ever gonna be. Because you don't want to be like, well, it makes sense to put this Rise of the Dark Realms in there, but it's not. It's got Liliana on it, and it doesn't have anything related to the Warhammer 40K. Yeah.
I really agree. Like, I think that's something that I never expected out of Magic, was like, it's so cool looking that I don't want to mess with it. But it's a thing now. And I think that's going to be, we're going to have the same conversation, I guarantee you, later when we talk about Lord of the Rings. We're going to be like, I can't have this other card in my Sauron deck. It has to be all Lord of the Rings. And that's probably going to be the case.
Yeah. So that's definitely something to think about also, is if, and again, this is one of the things where I think for each individual person,
Yeah.
Their preference is really clear, right? If you like Warhammer or you like the art for the Warhammer one, buy that one.
Yeah.
If you don't care about it, maybe go for the Urza deck because it's a little bit cheaper and you have that extra budget to then make these upgrades, customize it, and you're not gonna go as crazy with the idea of swapping those out.
Where are you gonna grade it?
I was gonna say, and with that, I think it's a straight shooter deck. I'm gonna give it a B+.
Wow, this man does not like A's or S's really.
I've hung all of mine are like between A+ and B-,
which is fair. I mean,
because we didn't choose.
Yeah,
we didn't choose really bad decks.
No, we didn't.
In hindsight, probably could have given one an S tier, Yeah. Because now, like, I'm trying to think, what's a precon?
Did I give Brina an S tier? So there's that.
No, you didn't give Brina.
Which
S
one
tier.
did? I gave
the
Necron
Necron
S tier.
Dynasty.
Yeah.
Which again, for the flavor, that's fine to me. If you
and again,
do
like
that.
these are arbitrary rankings,
Yeah.
but I would say all of these are like good. Like they're just good. When we made this list, we were thinking of like, well, I want people to be able to check out some precons that they can count on working for them.
Yeah.
And so I would agree that Urza's probably. I'm just gonna be annoying and say it's a B for me.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Just because I'm not into it.
And again, for me, Urza as a character, Urza Lord High Artificer is like 3 and a blue. He's very known. He's kind of like a stack Z commander, I think, sometimes, but he's a really good value commander.
Yeah.
And that was like a card early on for me that I was like, this card's so cool. So I have that attachment to Urza as a character, which maybe bumps this up in my rankings a little bit.
That's
higher
fine.
Than it should be. But again, I also think you could play the deck. It has a really clear path to upgrade without any issues.
Yeah, if you're gonna walk out of this and you had a friend that wanted to play Magic, which one of these are you just gonna like? If they said, I don't know anything, I don't want to make a decision, I want you to just hand me a precon.
Yeah.
Which one of these would you hand them?
So,
and I'm taking the price concept out of it.
Have the price discussion.
I just like, what one would you think that would be the best experience to welcome someone into Magic?
For me, it's 1 of 2. And it's the two of the ones I chose. It's either Reap the Tides or Elven Empire. Okay. Because I'm like, because if I'm introducing someone to Magic, I kind of don't want to do the Warhammer one. Yeah. Because I'm like, I want them to experience like Magic itself at first. And so I would choose one of those 2 decks because I think they're both pretty powerful, and they both have pretty somewhat simple strategies associated with them. I think you can make the case for Brina or the Silver Quill one in the same breath there as well. I just think the other 2 are a little bit higher power level.
I think for me, it's probably going to be Brina. Would be an easy one to just hand to somebody, but I don't know if everybody likes politics, so I'd probably, if I wasn't going to go with the politics one, I would go with Lathril, because she just makes sense for someone to start out in Magic. I mean, because also like longevity, I mean, I see her being a deck that you could probably, why Colby doesn't want to play her anymore, because like, again, it worked for a long time. And so I think that makes sense to me. So I'd probably more likely or not hand the Lathril over, because Brina is a little bit more just like my personal thing that I came to love. But I think Lathril is like an all around, who doesn't want to do that?
Right, bunch of elves, and like he's made upgrades where like he plays Craterhoof Behemoth in it now, which is like a very like the quintessential EDH card, win con for any creature strategy, and it's really good in the deck. And like you can kind of curve it into this like pre-con to then just like a standard Magic deck. I think it's one of the easiest ones for that. So maybe that would be my choice here as well. But yeah, I don't think you can't go wrong.
Yeah, these are all pretty great precons. Maybe Necron's a little too much, but like every other one of those I would be like feel comfortable with recommending to them.
And precons as a whole, I think, have genuinely been a great product. Yeah. Like I love even someone like us who like I can go build my own deck. Yeah. Sometimes it's almost fun not to, and to just have that experience of like I'm playing a completed product by someone else, and like other people may have the exact same deck list as me, but it's like a
Yeah, I think with Lord of the Rings, I'll probably be buying, because I think there's going to be a Sauron Commander precon. I'm like, well, I could build my own, but also like they did it for me. Maybe I'll just build it and then upgrade it later.
And all the art is cohesive. Yeah, like it's all been redone for the set. So like the Call Time one, it all has Call Time art. It all makes sense together. So aesthetically, precons are pretty nice too.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed kind of going through this, and I think like again when we make these episodes, our goal is to like do the mixture of educating and also just kind of like having fun talking about Magic. And I think precons are like the quintessential mixture of that, where like they're just really fun to play, and even people who are really good at Magic like to play them.
I was gonna say, that's it kind of makes me want one.
Yeah, it's like I kind of like, and I like the fact that I can go pick one up for $20, like at Target or whatever. Right now, we could play it and we have a great time with it.
It requires you don't have to wait for anything to ship. You're not ordering cards. You're just like, I can walk in, I can pick one out that I like, I can go home and shuffle it and play it. Yeah, and and we're not gonna talk about it today, but like it brings me to this thought of like there's this Twitter post I saw recently that made me like this is a good point, where someone was like, why is it so bad in Commander to want to win all the time? Like there's this whole culture, and we touched upon it a little bit, and I wanted to last week we talked about that a lot.
Like how like why do we punish people who want to win all the time? And I think I'm realizing like I'm a little biased because I'm so focused on having fun with the game, like with precon. Like I think precons are kind of the reason, is like, yeah, sometimes I don't want to always think about winning because I'm just having a fun time buying a precon. But I also I know this is a random thought, but I just like made me think about it of like, wow, like how going forward do you welcome people who are new to the game, teach them that it's okay to want to win, but also like still maintaining that fun precon vibes that we've kind of leaned. I don't know, maybe we've leaned a little too far to like just the fun, but recently I thought about that. I'm like, wow, like we used to be really competitive, and we've talked about this. Yeah. But now we're like so much like, let's go pick up a precon, just move
want
around.
Something different.
But like I don't know, I kind of almost want a little bit of a mixture. So I guess where I'm going with this thought was I do think it's cool when we see Necron stuff come out, like, you know, the Warhammer stuff that's like, oh, this is like
it can a little bit
both. Yeah, like a little bit competitive precon. I think that should be something that is also noted in your brain. Yeah. That winning's not a bad thing in Commander. It just sometimes gets treated like it is accidentally, I think.
And the whole thing is like what we circled back. It just has to be a conversation. You have to be clear about what you want out of the experience. And I do like that they've done both, right? Where they've made the Necron decks. They're $80, but they're a little bit higher power level, and then they still are coming out with their standard precons that are more in the $30, $40 range. Yeah. So,
and I'd be okay. Like Grave Danger, $22. I'd be okay in the future to start seeing some tiers like. That may be too much, maybe not everybody's favorite, but like I wouldn't if theoretically this happened, I wouldn't be like upset to see like a competitive version of like precon. I don't know,
because they release 2 precons with most sets, so like maybe one could be a higher price point,
like the master one or something. Like you can kind of be like, oh, that's the one that's supposed to like be really good or something. I don't know, food for thought. Wizards doesn't listen to us, so nope. It's
not many people do at this stage of the game.
But we're having a good time, and I hope this helps. And if you happen to come upon this video and you're like, wow, I was really looking into precons, there you go. There's a list, man. And if you guys want more lists, I mean, comment below, and we'll either throw out some other commanders that we didn't mention here, like Wireless is a good one that I recommend.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that Boros artifacts and equipment, definitely a very proven strategy, and
they're great, cheap.
Another thing for people to mention in the comments, if you play one of these decks, if you heard the podcast and you like one of these decks, you either previously have played them or you want to go out and play them, and you do, let us know your grade in the comments. Give it that.
I want to see some different grades.
I want to see some S tiers rolling in.
Because we seem to be throwing them mostly at A and B. So, all right. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Ben, thanks once again for setting up this show. Absolutely. We'll be back real soon for episode 5, which is a tiny baby milestone for us, where we get to see we're at 5th episode.
Next milestone's 1,000.
Yeah. Well, the seasons end at 20. It's kind of our goal, 2021. So like we'll by December hopefully be at 20 or 21. So
that'd be great, and I should be married by then.
Hopefully, and I'm hoping to get them done before that, so that you can take that time until season 2.
Well, we'll all be there at the wedding. So worst case scenario, you just bring the equipment.
Yeah, we'll just record there.
Yeah,
it sounds great.
Yep.
All right, thanks so much, guys. And hey, if you've watched all the way through, why haven't you subscribed yet? It's not going to cost you anything. And again, with Spotify, you can just follow us and stick around. And we'd really appreciate it, because me and Ben are working hard on this channel, and we're excited to see it grow. And we'll have a fun time this year. And we're excited for episode 5. So we'll see you guys next time. And Ben, can you say something to Keegan?
Keegan, Jamie, thank you so much for all that you do for us. Not just anyone can come and sit here quietly while we record our podcasts and occasionally throw out little tidbits, like the fact that the first Commander Precon was in 2013. And with that,
get out, Keegan.
See you later.